Angelyn here with an update for Color of Kismet. Wanted to let everybody know we got your submissions for your stories. Thank you so much. I'm honored at your willingness and your ability to sit down and be mindful and set your intent for next year through evaluating the year before. I wanted to let you know that we will be letting you know privately first who wins, and then we will be publishing, if they are okay with it, their name, and if they want, their story. We'd love to be able to publish stories too, but it's entirely up to them. I did want to come to the table with my own transformation story. I realized at some point in January that they were trickling in, but they were trickling in kind of slow. And I asked a few friends of mine why they thought that was. And everybody was like, 'cause that's scary and hard and you have to be vulnerable. And I guess I hadn't considered like how difficult it would be, of course, to do that. So I want to say thank you very much to the people who did do that. I want to say thank you very much to the people who considered. I think I'll probably do it again next year. So maybe you can think about it this year and see what comes up for you to submit for next year. But I wanted to share with you my transformation story as a means of coming to the table with the same thing that I hope that you guys will come to the table with as you're ready. Early on in 2020, I tuned out from what was going on. Pretty much after the toilet paper scandal, I was kind of done with humanity at that point. That just felt so bad to me, and everybody's fear was just insane. I tuned out at that point. I didn't want anything to do with what was happening. And of course, gosh, there was just so much that came after that point. But, that was sort of my first awareness of like, whoa, what is going on, with this year. I ended up getting sick early on. I was unable to go test for COVID because we were not allowed to at the time. Unless you were very, 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 very sick, you could not go get tested. So I didn't. But I know that's what I had. I know because the symptoms that I had. I know because I've seen so many people get it since then. But at the time, I couldn't get a test. And so people didn't believe me. The person I was dating at the time didn't believe me. My partner, one of the partners that I worked with, or I had lots of friends who didn't believe me. And that, at the time, I just remember being like, nobody knows. We don't know, so I get it. As time went on, it bothered me more because I was seeing, into May and June and July and August, we were seeing a lot more patterns come up. But, in April, when I got sick, we didn't have that yet. And so while I could understand and sympathize and empathize with all the people who weren't, and it wasn't like they were overtly against me or anything like that. They just were like, how do you know? Totally a fair thing, except that in my mind I was like, well, I know. And if you're not believing me, why? Why are you not believing me? So that was kind of a thing. The other thing that happened at that same time that I got sick was I began to have fear around being separated from my son. You were seeing these horror stories in Europe where people were being separated from families. That was happening here in the United States. There was just a lot of movement collectively around that. And it scared me, and I didn't like it. I am my child's only parent, and that is pretty much, and that's terrifying to a parent to think about that. But I was unusually freaked out, not even reasonably freaked out, so super freaked out and scared that it was really something that I had to focus on and set intent on working through. Um, and I did set that intent and focus on working through. And I ended up making a difference, later on in the year. But early on, I mean, it was laborious. It was looking at, why do I feel that way? Well, thinking about all the reasons I could feel that way, from my own childhood, from my pregnancy, there's all these different opportunities for that to, have sort of gotten into my consciousness as a thing to be afraid of. But my brother one day said, "You've got to get a hold of yourself." And he said it in this very firm voice, and I heard it. And I knew he was right, and I felt very not grounded, and I wanted to feel grounded. And so I just cut myself out of the whole thing, and I put my phone down, and I stopped checking social media, and I stopped checking YouTube, and I went outside with my kid, and with the intention of grounding, with the intention of bringing myself back to life away from this fear. And we spent, so much time outside this summer, and there were projects and walks, and we had, there's just a limited amount of places you could go, but we made games out of things. It deepened our relationship, my son and I, in a way that was entirely unexpected. The other thing that it did was it did ground me. And I remembered having a moment this summer where I realized that in the worst, hardest times of my life, the way that I've come back to myself is through grounding, through putting my hands in the dirt. And so that's what I did. We planted a garden, we planted flowers, we landscaped stuff, we moved piles of dirt. We did things all summer. And it connected me to the earth in a different way. It connected me to myself in a different way. And I began to focus on nurturing. It was when nurturing became really, really present for me in this different way. And I started trying to nurture myself through what the earth would do. Like, what does the earth feel like? It feels comfortable and soft and loving, almost. Like, it's just there. There's it's a nice, firm but soft landing. And I started trying to sort of mimic that in the way that I treated myself and the way that I treated my son. Fast forward to October, and he tested positive. And the test itself was a nightmare and traumatic and horrible. And that's a whole different story. But during that time, I had the opportunity to view, because I had done all this work all summer, I had the opportunity to view the stark contrast between the way things felt in April when I got sick and the way things felt in October when he got sick. And I say sick in quotes because we had, each the virus, but neither of us got sick, both times. Neither of us got sick, which is wonderful. It's a blessing. What I noticed was that I did not have the fear. My bread machine is just, the bread's done. That's distracting. What I noticed was that I didn't have the reaction to being separated from him. There was something in me that just knew, like, even if he's positive, we're not going to be separated. He's not going to get sick. I just kept hearing he's not going to get sick. He's not going to get sick. Don't worry. And so I didn't. And he didn't get sick. And we got 2 more weeks to spend together and to enjoy. And I got to see the difference between myself and him from April to October. And that shift in being able to not just float off into fear, into that kind of fear, because it was so big for me, the being separated fear. being able to see that I wasn't there was so transformative for me, to just to be able to notice that it propelled me into this like creative sort of blossoming. I had a lot of awarenesses around my family, a lot of awarenesses around the way I am personally, ways to do things differently. There's just a lot of awareness. 2020 was absolutely transformative for me. It was hard. There were so many elements of it that were awful that I don't ever want to have to deal with again. But man, did it transform me. And it transformed a lot of people. A lot of us got a lot of lessons. I think it's important to acknowledge them. I think it's important to look at them and get and see them. You know, how did I feel about this thing in March? How do I feel about this thing now? How did I feel about this when it happened in September? How do I feel about this now? Why? What happened? What's different? If nothing's different, why? Why is nothing different? Why is this not shifting for me at all? Not that things have to shift all the time, but we evolve as people, and so often our feelings and our views will also shift and evolve just because we're not the same people, any 2 minutes in a row, honestly. I encourage you, even if you didn't submit anything, to think about it, to sit with what's different for you and how you transformed. It was a year that we will be studying probably for decades or centuries down the road. It's hard to even say what's going to come of it, but it can help you to look at it in that way. It can help you to look at what's coming for you, to look at what 2021, what do you want for 2021? How do you want to shift your life? How do you want to choose your own destiny? Like I said, I'll be getting with you guys soon about the winner for the contest. Thanks for listening if you made it this far, and visit us at colorofkismet.com. Thank you.